Welcome to OBM Unscripted, where the systems get sassy, tech tantrums are tamed, and real talk rules the mic.
We're your hosts. I'm Christy Beard, your go-to strategist and business coach.
I'm Manita Brooks, your operations and tech whisperer.
And I'm Lena May, the guru of systems and workflow magic.
We're all accredited OBMs, and we have seen it all.
If you've ever wanted to scream into a client brief, cry over Zapier, or Google, "Can I invoice for emotional labor?" you're in the right place.
This is your space for behind-the-scenes stories, hot takes, and community vibes for OBMs, VAs, and online service bosses.
Real talk, real answers.
Unfiltered,
Unscripted.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of OBM Unscripted. I'm here with Maniba and Christy, and today we are talking about imposter syndrome. Today we are going to deep dive right into imposter syndrome, what it means as an OBM, and we're going to give you some tips on how to get around the feeling of not being good enough. So for those of you who don't know, imposter syndrome is when you think that you're not good enough to be the assistant to XYZ, or you're not good enough to run the business of whoever. And let's face it, it doesn't mean you're broken. We all suffer from it. It's just our brain's way of being in survival mode when we're doing something uncomfortable for the first time. So let's start with you, Christy. Let's talk a little bit about where it shows up as an OBM.
Everywhere. So I've been doing what I've been doing for 30 years, and I am just now moving in the last couple of years. I've moved into the online space, and it has hit me in every area. I am a neat freak, an organizational nut, whatever you want to call me. I've been called it all, but I still question, am I the person that can organize this for this business, or can I do this for this client? So, and I'm an introvert, so talking like this is out of my wheelhouse, but I still know what I know. And so I have to move past the uncomfortableness of being in spaces like this and know that I still know what I know. And so it can pop up even in areas like this where, we know that we can do X, Y, and Z. We've done it 100 times, but this is a new client, or this is a new project, or this is not what I'm used to. And so it can creep in. And I think that one of the things that we have to remember is statistics are part of it, but I'm giggling because people say statistics, or 80% of statistics are made up on the spot, which is what came in my head before I said this. But statistically, never mind. I have totally forgot my thought process. Y'all have got me like, anyway,
This is OBM Unscripted.
Absolutely.
Right? It's gone. Yeah, imposter syndrome is something that it happens to all of us. And you have people that they go on stage in front of thousands of people and they still have anxiety, but once they get out there, it's all good. So yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the first time, if it's a new situation, or if we've done it 1,000 times. It's stuff that can creep in.
Maniba, I actually had a question for you because you've been in the digital space longer than the two of us. Think back to when you were first starting out as a VA, did you ever have that thought of, oh my gosh, my client's going to figure out I'm a fraud? And how did you deal with that thought if you had it? Or what did you think?
I think we can trace that back to probably even before that, throughout my entire childhood. But, it's like, I think everybody to some extent experiences imposter syndrome. Even, our kids, they have it where they're always questioning themselves. They're like, can I really hang from the monkey bars? Well, that one can do the monkey bars. I can't do it so well. Well, maybe it's something wrong with me. And, so it starts from a very young age. And monkey bars don't, to us as adults, monkey bars are like, really? It's fine. But to a kid, that's the thing. That's the goal. That's what you need to accomplish. And that's the pressure. So I think it starts at a very young age, and it's a very human thing to happen. But what I've noticed is that when you're out in the business space and you're trying to navigate building your own business and whatever, people don't talk about it as often because it's seen as being unprofessional, or there's actually a stigma against talking about it. I mean, in some circles, it's touched on lightly where, yeah, well, we all question ourselves, but it's okay. It's great. And, you keep moving forward. But I think there is a larger conversation to be had, is that this is something that as human beings, we all experience to some extent. So it is very normal, despite everyone, getting that business persona out up front, that I am in charge of everything. I'm the best at what I do and everything is great and I never question myself. Yeah, public persona is one thing, but there is a very human component behind it where we all do it to an extent. So it's normal. And when you're feeling this type of imposter syndrome, don't go so hard on yourself, because navigating that, going back to starting out as a VA, where it hits really, really hard, you're like, maybe I'm not qualified. Maybe I don't have the experience. Maybe I'm just taking people's money and I don't really know how to do this thing. And you question yourself, and then you question your value, and then you start looking at your business model. Should I really be offering these products? And it kind of seeps in if left unchecked. So something very, very important is to make sure that when you are experiencing these thoughts and feelings, which are very normal, very human, and everybody does it. And if someone's telling you they don't do it, they're probably lying, or they're lying to themselves, one or the other. But it does happen. And I think just to be able to acknowledge it and have things you can do to move through this process is what's going to help you in the long run.
Remember what I was going to say.
Get it, Christy.
I think 70% or more of what goes on in our head is negative. And so we have a lot of negative self-talk in our head. And I think that also contributes to the imposter syndrome, because you're talking to yourself in a negative way, and it's going into the actions that you're taking every day, or the potential clients that you're talking to. And so you are questioning yourself in the back of your mind as you're having that conversation with a client. And it can feel like, okay, they are going to see right through me, even though you know what you know, and you know that you can do whatever that client needs. So I think a lot of it does go back to how we talk to ourselves, and then mindset. We have to recognize when we're having that negative self-talk and counter it with positive, and make sure that we're having a healthy mindset. Also having confidence in ourselves, knowing that, okay, I do know how to do this. And so this negativity is wrong, and call it out. That's not true. I don't believe that. That's not true. And then move forward and move past it.
That really leads us kind of into the next thought about reframing that voice in our head. I always kind of think back to things I've heard in the past, like, you need to tell yourself a better lie. Imposter syndrome is just you lying to yourself. And you don't have to believe that what you're thinking is true, but you do have to believe that you can push past it in order to grow. It's growth, essentially, is what imposter syndrome is to me. And I think back a lot. My mom used to listen to Louise Hay when I was growing up, and Louise Hay used to say every time she had a negative thought, she would thank the negative thought and say, "Thank you, goodbye," and move on with what it was. And it's hard to believe something that simple can push you through, but a lot of times it is the only thing that pushes you through when you're dealing with imposter syndrome. So let's talk about, do you think as OBMs we feel more imposterous because of our skill set or because of our personalities?
It would have to be probably both. But I would say that personality plays a big part in, well, personality, but also how you see yourself and how you perceive that other people see you. So I would have to say it would be a mix, and then just what you tell yourself all the time.
I was talking to another OBM in the making this week, and she was talking about, getting started with her first client. And poor thing, she's gonna listen to this episode. Hi, I'm not gonna name you for confidentiality, but I know you're listening. And I wanted to just give her a hug because I was like, I've so been there where you are. But it's like she has her first client and she wants to do all the right things, right? And she wants this to go well. And she's so emotionally invested in this client that she's starting to question herself. Well, maybe I can't do it. Well, maybe this is just my first client. So maybe I need to like do all these extra things for free because maybe it's just me and I'm still learning. And maybe I don't want to come off too pushy. And so I think it is a bit of a personality thing. It's a bit of a growth thing as well, where you're growing in your business. And as you start to have more positive interactions with clients and more positive case studies, so to say, you can use that to go back and say, hey, I did this thing. I did this project and it was great and the client was happy and it went well. Whatever motivates you, you kind of, and that's what I do. I have it in my ClickUp board as a wiki of all my case studies and good things that clients have said and good things that have happened, positive improvements. So when I'm having those days where I'm just like, maybe I'm not doing it right, then I could always go back and say, well, no, I launched this person's business and look at where they are now because of the systems I set up. I remember being in the trenches launching that business, and it was hard at the time, but look at it now. So to be able to go back and reference successes and things that I've done and things clients have said, that's really, really helped me to kind of work through these feelings of imposter syndrome that do pop up. So I think having that type of a survival kit where you can go back and take a look and look at your successes, and also having people, I think I say this every episode, but having people around you also helps, because if you get stuck in that mindset and sometimes, maybe your case studies are like, well, yeah, those are those case studies. This is something different. Then at least you have a network where you can fall back on to be like, no, I do know what I'm doing. It's just a bad day and it's going to pass. And then, Lena, like you said, tell the thing goodbye and see it off.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning too, is like for me, is separating the newness from incompetence, because I had done that the same. Well, I've done this for so long, so it's just a new space, but that can trigger feeling inadequate and feeling like, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, but it's newness versus incompetence. And I think that that's worth recognizing when you're doing something different. Also, as CEOs, we do things that are not necessarily in our wheelhouse, like marketing or websites and pulling things together or systems. It's not for everybody. It's my thing, but not everybody gets that. And so we can feel incompetent or have the imposter syndrome when we do have to wear all the hats, especially when we initially get started. So I think it's worth recognizing newness versus incompetence, and the growth edge, I guess, where you are learning as you grow by learning marketing or systems or a new platform or whatever. There is a difference between imposter syndrome and and what you're doing next.
And I think if you're one of those analytical OBMs, even if you're not, it also helps to kind of look at what is triggering your imposter syndrome. Because sometimes you can identify a trend to see, whenever X happens, it seems like I always start to question myself. And when you're building your case studies of positive things, be sure to also note that, well, I felt imposter syndrome when this happened, and then I felt it again in this project, and then start to connect the dots and see where is it actually coming from. And I think that's going to help you get more insight into what's triggering it, and how you can actually work through that and teach yourself that this particular thing that's going on with you, it's probably not a skill issue. It's probably something that you can completely control and rectify, and then move forward from there and continue growing. Because I think imposter syndrome is just showing that you're growing.
Everything's learnable.
Absolutely. Which actually leads me into my next thought. The tools that we use to combat imposter syndrome. Maniba, I love that you keep a file of like client goodness in your ClickUp. I have a printed out file on my desk that I call my happy file when I'm having a rough day. This client does love me. Some other things that I've done is I've given that voice in my head a name now. I just call it Lucifer and tell Lucifer to shut up. Imposter syndrome is the devil. But another thing I've done in the past is I stopped for a second and just kind of journaled it out to understand what I was feeling and where the real source of that fear or negativity was coming from. And like you said, Maniba, you'll find a pattern, especially when you're journaling it out. You'll be like, this happened, on this last project too, or when somebody said this specific phrase, that's when it hit me. And so just having the sight in mind to know that it's a tool, there's tools in your arsenal that you can use to get past it. So guys, tell me some of your tools.
I'd say feedback, because we have our own thought process and our own point of view, but it's helpful to talk to clients and see how they're viewing you and see if they're happy with the results or happy with how you're handling things. I think that will tell you volumes and should, in most cases, silence the negativity in your mind, because we all have our own POV, and getting the client's point of view is really what matters. And if they're happy, then run with that.
I think for me, something that I've started using over the last couple years is if my daughter came to me saying this exact scenario, what would I say to her? And I would say that to myself, because a lot of times it's just, you just need that external perspective on what is going on, And I noticed there was a time about a year and a half back where it was like 24/7 imposter syndrome for me. And I was like, why? Am I just not good enough for this? Should I just go out and get a job? Can I not build this business? But it was really not just about what was happening with the client work. It was also stuff that was happening in a broader sense in life in general. So what is happening in your day-to-day life that is now feeding into this imposter syndrome? And it's probably not even about the clients. It's not even about the work. It's about other things that might be going on that you may need to address for you to grow through that and move forward. So yeah, in a way, you kind of have to do a complete, full, holistic view of everything, not just the client work, but whatever you have going on in your day-to-day life that might be triggering you to be more susceptible to imposter syndrome. Because sometimes it could be, a relationship in your life where that's like really negative and you're constantly getting negative feedback from that end. And now that's bleeding into your work. Or it could be like another interaction with, a third party, kid's school or whatever. And then something triggered you there to make you feel like an inadequate parent. And now that's also bleeding into your work. So coming at this from a human perspective, it is a human thing, and it encapsulates your entire life. So don't just kind of narrow it down to imposter syndrome in business, because we are human and everything we do and interact with is going to bleed into other areas. So just to be mindful of what you have going on as a whole and making sure that you're taking care of your mental health, both professionally and personally, because that's going to help you continue growing and moving forward.
I think the biggest lie that we all believe is this is only happening to me. I'm the only one. No one else understands. No one else is going through this. And that's the biggest lie of all. We all go through this, all these emotions at some point in our life. So we all deal with imposter syndrome in some form at some time, either in our life, like you were saying, Maniba, or in our career. So it isn't new and we all deal with it. It's just a matter of how we deal with it and how we keep pushing forward and not believing the lies.
Silencing that inner critic is difficult in the beginning, but I think you get better at it as time goes on, the more you deal with it. And for me, it shows up right before I'm about to have a growth period. Whether it's a lesson that I'm learning in tech or a lesson I'm learning on how to deal with my visionary, whatever it is, it usually leads to a lesson because they've asked me to do something outside of my comfort zone. And that's when Lucifer comes knocking, right? So it's just like, all right, yeah, I totally get it. But the other thing, Maniba, and you touched on it for just a second, and it's so important, is to get into those community spaces. Like we have a LinkedIn group for OBM Unscripted. We have a Facebook group for OBM Unscripted. There are other people there who have gone through what you're going through and are open to listen. They're open to cheer you on. They're open to give you feedback if you ask for it. So get into a community group. It doesn't have to be ours, even though ours is there and I think it's the best. There's always someone out there cheering for you. Even if you give us a quick DM on whatever platform, we'll be able to help you out. So just keep that in mind. You're not alone. And Christy is dying to say something.
I am. So I want to say, okay, so what if you are an imposter? What if you don't know it all? Learn it. Learn it. In my day, back in the day, the phrase used to be fake it till you make it. It's no different than imposter syndrome. So and you don't have to know everything. I don't know everything, but I can do a lot for my clients. And if they have something that I know a little bit about, I used to tease and say that I'm a jack of all trades and the queen of none. So it's like I know a little bit of this and I know a little bit of that, and I can help you with this and I can learn more about that, but I'm upfront with my client. And I will say, I've not worked with that platform, but I'm a quick study. I don't have a problem learning it so that I can implement. Be honest. So even if you are an imposter, so what? Learn, fix it. And then you're not. Fake it till you make it.
Absolutely.
Don't just say that you know how to do something and you don't,
Right.
Huge disclaimer.
Yeah.
I think I want to give our listeners some homework this week, actually, to jump into a community and message somebody or make a post about something that you've been going through, just to give you the feedback that somebody else has been through it, and maybe start something like Maniba and I do. Hers is digital, mine's paper, but give yourself a post-it note to read every day of 3 times that you've done something fantastic and why you were qualified to do it, and keep that visible. So when you are having days of imposter syndrome, you can say, oh yeah, it's just my brain. I've got to tell it something different.
Yeah. I have a happy folder, and I call that my happy folder because it's it's testimonials, it's reviews, it's comments, it's feedback that lets me know that the clients are happy, or that they really liked what I did, or it changed their business some way, or whatever. And so those are the things that I go back to when I feel inadequate, or I feel like, okay, can I really help this person? When I question myself. So yeah, I love being able that we all have some form of that. I think it's totally necessary to talk to ourselves and give ourselves some positive feedback that's true, that we know is true. It's what we've experienced, and it can tear the lies down.
I was going to say, if you need something in a pinch, just activate voice mode on ChatGPT and tell it to give you a pep talk. It's probably going to blow a lot of smoke, but it's still saying nice things.
All right, guys, as we wrap up today, I just want to encourage anyone listening to share your imposter story with us. We would love to hear them because we've probably been there or might be going through it in the future, and your imposter story could help us. So we really appreciate everybody listening. Check out our LinkedIn and Facebook groups, and we will see y'all next week. Bye.